Hello, 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 all of you beautiful people from around the world. What is going on? Happy Star Wars Sunday to you if you are checking this video out on Sunday. And if not, if you're watching the replay, no big deal, but you should know we do sweet Star Wars videos every single Sunday. Guys, it's an impromptu live stream. I am on the road doing the New York Comic-Con thing. I'm actually just in my hotel. I just needed to get on the stream and do a little bit of a Star Wars talking with you guys. It's going to be probably a pretty short stream, though. I actually have to check out of this hotel pretty soon. Possible spoiler warning too. You see the thing. I don't know which side it's on. You see the spoiler warning thing. So just if you're not feeling the spoilers, if you're not into that kind of stuff, then get on out of here, because as I have said, as I continue to say, I think these are real. I do believe that the leakage from Jedi Paxis and some of the other stuff that's going on is legitimately real. So we're going to get into that. What's up, chat? I see you guys. I see a lot of love. How's Comic-Con? Comic-Con was awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to breaking down a few things and talking about some other really interesting things. A lot more Marvel stuff that went down at Comic-Con than Star Wars. And shameless plug, if you guys are not a part of the Patreon, two really cool things are happening tomorrow on Patreon. It's the first Monday of the month, so we are going to do our Patreon exclusive live stream. So even if you're just doing $1 a month, everybody gets access to that live stream. I'm going to talk a lot about New York Comic-Con tomorrow night. And also, if you're a business member or above, like a $10 tier or above, I'm going to do a vlog talking to you guys about some of the very freaking cool business things that happen for us at New York Comic Con. But either way, let's get into this Star Wars stuff. So, a lot of people reached out to me and asked me, like, why didn't you cover the Jedi Paxis leaks for Act 3? And the truth is, I did cover the Jedi Paxis leaks for Act 3. So that was last Friday. Yo, what's up, Gator? Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. I saw, that news broke last Friday, and I wrote and recorded the show talking specifically about the Paxis leaks, okay, for Act 3. Now, what ended up happening was, as I'm about to edit, the news of Spider-Man dropped. So the Tom Holland is back, Spider-Man dropped, and it's just one of those things. You just gotta get out of there. And so we didn't end up publishing the video for the Paxis leaks during last Friday when it broke. Now, here's where it gets really weird. So I have like I'm working with a lot of different people. I have these editors that are sort of in queue that I'm trying to like test out and see like where I can plug them into the workflow. So there was this one editor that I sent that show to, the show that I literally shot on Friday, all about Paxis leaks for Act 3. And this dude literally just goes ghost on me, and I have to reach back out to him, and I'm like, yo, where's the video? This dude tells me that he couldn't edit it, he just really wasn't feeling it, and scrap the whole project. And like, that's fine or whatever, but I just want to say, like, if you're out there trying to make it as an editor, if you're trying to do anything in freelance, and you get into a situation like that, like, here's what you don't do. You don't just not get in touch with the person that's a prospective client, and then when they reach out to you, you just say that, I wasn't feeling it. That was a super bad look. So anyways, just because we've been so busy, I didn't really have time to really properly cover the Paxis leaks, but we'll talk about them right now. The thing that was very interesting to me about the leaks is that he says in the lead up to kind of getting into more of what's actually going on in the leaks, that he knows for sure that they're going to be changing things due to the reshoots, okay? And so we're in a very interesting situation here, because as I said, I do tend to believe that these Paxis leaks are real, and Jason Ward has corroborated a lot of that stuff. He believes a lot of the Paxis leaks stuff as well, so it all seems to kind of tie together. But I think it's certainly worth mentioning that due to the reshoots and due to just the nature of this project, I mean, this is such it's such a crazy big deal, this movie, and a lot is resting on this movie's shoulders, right? And so it's one of those things where I do think they're going to change a lot of things, and I'm not one for like those conspiracy theories where like they purposely studios leak stuff out and then they're like, how do people respond to this, and then they make changes from that. I'm not one of those guys, but I would say that it's kind of interesting that a lot of this stuff, it just happens to be hitting fans in a way in which fans are being super vocal about whether they like it or not. And again, I apologize if the quality of the stream's a little wacky. I'm just, in my hotel or whatever. But so having said all that, the Paxos leaks talk about the end of the film, majorly, and the fact that the dyad, which is this thing, this like kind of branded name that JJ is going to give to the connection between Kylo Ren and Rey, is going to be this thing that the Emperor is looking for. And so when they come together at the end of the film, this would be Ben Solo and Rey, the power that they have, this dyad thing, that he literally like zaps it out of them. So like he literally like almost like Darth Nihilus from the EU, he like siphons off their force energy, the crazy amount of force energy that's created when they are together. This is how they were able to defeat Snoke. They're just really powerful together, and I think we'll get more of an explanation of that in the film. But essentially what happens is, at this point, Kylo is killed, and the way that it's described in the Paxos leaks is that Kylo is kind of thrown off into some chasm. It is apparently very visually reminiscent of when Han Solo fell into that abyss. And so then it's Rey, and Rey is all weakened because all the force power of hers has been siphoned off by Palpatine. Now, here's what's really interesting. So I want to stop here for a second and explain something. Now, this Matt Smith situation, and what I mean is the situation with Matt Smith is that many people were like, okay, this dude is clearly in the movie. There's a lot of different evidence to suggest that he was going to be a young Palpatine. But here's the thing that's crazy about that. It kind of seems like he's not in the movie anymore. And this was like this really big thing that a lot of people are talking about. And I think Jason Ward's take on this is probably accurate. That essentially they were playing around with the idea of when Palpatine is older, him sort of being Ian McDiarmid. But then when he is younger, I believe they were playing around with a couple of different ways to do it. One being that Sheev would essentially be revitalized to not even an older version of himself, but to like a young version of Palpatine that we've never seen before, like young Palpatine, like strapping young lad Palps, right? While that's really interesting, I think what happened was JJ and a lot of different people just kind of decided that maybe we want the nostalgia of seeing Sheev that in a way we've seen him before. And I believe that what they're going to do is have him be the one from Revenge of the Sith. That's really what the rumor is now, is that when he siphons off the Force power, he is going to be looking like a young Palpatine from Revenge of the Sith, okay, as opposed to like way younger. So Matt Smith might actually not be in this movie, and really the reason I bring that up is because it's such a testament to how little we potentially know about what will actually come out as the final product. Because of all of the reshoots and because this project is so ambitious, and JJ just has so much on his plate and there's so much they need to accomplish with this film, that I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibilities for them to make drastic changes to a lot of what we have even been talking about over the past couple of months. I mean, supposedly the new reshoots are very heavy in the CGI department, which really suggests that they made some pretty crazy changes, and there are possibly big scenes in the film that are heavy with CGI that are going to be adjusted. So the bottom line is we're actually in this really beautiful place with this movie, because although I tend to believe I know a lot of the story beats and a lot of what's going to be going on in the film, you don't know it exactly. And because of the reshoots and because of all the context that I had just mentioned, anything's possible. You know what I mean? Like, anything's possible. I know a lot of people are potentially upset at Ben Solo's demise. And if he doesn't like come back in some way or form, then that to a lot of people is feeling, hollow. And I understand that. That could easily be just adjusted. It could be changed, something that JJ just changes. Also, it's important to note that when it comes to leaks, we are lacking the context. We don't get to see things on screen, right? So like you can read something and it doesn't translate well, but once you see it and there's a lead up and there's all these different things going on, then it makes a lot more sense, right? So it's yeah, we're actually in a really great spot for potentially knowing some really dope things that are going to happen in the movie, but also not really knowing potentially what could be happening in the film. So I'm actually pretty pumped about it. But let's go on with the rest of the leak, and then I'll do just a couple of questions for Q&A, and then I gotta get out of here. Hey, thanks, Ben Cooper. I appreciate that. So the way that the leaks are going after this is that so Rey will be completely drained, and at this point, Palpatine, and this is what Jason was calling like the money shot, or like the main sequence of the end, is that Palpatine is going to, in his new robes and his new young body, literally like shoot up so much force lightning into the sky that he's immobilizing the Rebel fleet. And the Rebel fleet is then going to start to be devastated by the Sith fleet, right? So the Sith fleet and the Sith troopers and the Sith Star Destroyers and all of that. Yeah, and if you guys could smash the like button, that would be amazing. Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, so that's apparently what's going to be happening. But then so he's doing all this, and Rey is like just kind of on the ground, like defeated. And apparently the Force ghosts, and it gets confusing, right? Some people are saying it's the Force ghosts of Luke, the Force ghosts of Leia, that all of these different Force ghosts. And I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, where's Kit Fisto? You know what I mean? Like, can we get a little Kit Fisto in action? But apparently all of these Jedi are going to show up either as a Force ghost or just their voices and their presence are there. And I see some people talking about Anakin in the chat, and I'm with you. Like, I would really, really love to have Anakin show up and play a big role at this end scene. But either way, these Jedi come and they sort of revive Rey. They give her Force energy, right? A lot of Force energy there. And then she sort of gets up, and there's this really cool scene where she then takes Leia's and Anakin's lightsabers, and as in a cross guard kind of thing, Palps is just like raining lightning on her, and she's absorbing it and blocking it with both sabers, and it is apparently an incredible scene, an incredibly empowering scene. And Rey will, sort of walk up, and in my opinion, I think she's just gonna like chop dude's head off or cut him up or something. And that is essentially going to be the end of the film. Now, the very end of the film is going to have to do with Rey and some of the other members of the Resistance and people that we like going to Tatooine. Okay, and she buries. I'm kind of confused here. Apparently, she buries parts of the Skywalker saber, but then she utilizes other parts of the Skywalker saber to create her own saber, which has like either a gold or a yellow blade. But either way, she gets asked at the end of the movie, who are you? Which has been a big theme with Rey, right? It's like, who are you? And she answers, I'm Rey Skywalker. And so apparently, so this is the way it's played out, according to the leaks. She is a Palpatine. She is Rey Palpatine, the granddaughter of Sheev Palpatine, right? But she takes the Skywalker name as her mantle, so she's sort of like a Skywalker by name, not by blood. And so that is apparently the end of the film, is like at the Lars homestead on Tatooine. We see Rey. She establishes that she's Rey Skywalker now. And there's no mention of Ben Solo. And so it's very possible that Ben and his arc pretty much ends at the end of the movie, where he is killed by Palpatine. Now, I think that he could potentially show up as a Force ghost in the very next scene to give power and energy to Rey. And yeah, I'm not really sure how people will feel about that, but that is the leak. You know what I mean? So that's the leak. And as I've said many times throughout this video and many times throughout our coverage of this, who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? They're changing a lot of things right now with the reshoots. And so we don't really know how it's all going to do. You know what I mean? And so, look, I get asked a lot, how do I feel about the leaks? What do I think's going on with this? I'm very into the leaks. I like them a lot. I know for some people, going back to Palpatine is irritating. It feels like, a last-ditch effort. Yeah, and I see some people in the chat, they don't really like it, and I totally get that. I would, all I would say is, for me as a fan, it's stuff that excites me. Like, there's just scenes and I can visualize them in a really interesting and cool way. However, if you're really not down with what's going on right now in the sequel trilogy, yeah, I can assume it would be really hard for you to get behind some of this stuff, right? So I totally feel you. We're just going to have to wait and see. And I think plenty of people are going to go see this movie. I really don't think there's going to be a boycott or anything like that. I highly doubt it. If anything, there will be a group of people that maybe doesn't check it out right away just because they're sort of apathetic towards Star Wars. And that, look, I can't like say you're wrong. If you're apathetic towards Star Wars, it just hasn't been scratching your particular itches. So either way, that is the leak, and also kind of why I think we're in a good spot, because we don't really know what will happen. But anyways, guys, I can literally only go for like 10 more minutes. So if you got some questions, we can do a little bit of Q&A, but I can literally only go for about 10 more minutes. And then I got to get out of here. So let us see. This movie will break all records. Titanic, Avatar, you name it, says Maya. I'm really interested to see what the box office is for The Rise of Skywalker. This is something that I talk to a lot of people about all the time. My opinion here is that if it does not beat The Last Jedi in box office, it's a bad sign. And it's not necessarily like, oh, it's over, but it's a bad sign. Star Wars, despite me being very positive on it and a lot of people out there being very positive on it, it's just not in a good spot as a brand. And so this movie is a huge test. I think JJ knows exactly how much pressure is on him, and everybody at Disney knows what a big deal this is. I think it's going to coast to $1 billion. I do not think it's going to be challenging for the movie to get $1 billion. But as far as breaking some of these records, I personally don't see it. Once we get a little closer to the film, a lot of the box office tracking will come out, and I mean, like those numbers are pretty good. You know what I mean? Like they're not 100%, but they're pretty good. So if it's tracking low, then it's tracking low. You know what I mean? Like it's not haters. That's real. Do I really think the leaks are real? How is it possible? Says Salvador Mendez. Yeah, I do think the leaks are real, and the reason I think that they're real is because, so you have to understand, like, what is going on in leaks, like how does leaking culture work and all this stuff. By the way, most of it goes back to Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was really when leaking kind of became a huge thing. It's just the nature of that show and the fact that there was source material out ahead. It became like this thing that people got really obsessed with. But how do leaks happen? So leaks happen where people within the production will have connects. And so maybe, like, let's just say, like, I've had connections to different productions before, and there'll be people that work in design, or they work in costumes, or they do this and that. Thousands of people work on these movies, right? And so if you're just a person, if you're just like a guy chilling, and you're getting emails, like, let's just say, for all these costumes, and you get the costume for this character, you get the costume for this character, and you start to, like, piece things together, you want to talk about it. But what the leaking culture has become is there are people out there that seek out these sources to try to be known as a leaker. And the bottom line is this: why do we believe these leaks as opposed to some of the other leaks? Well, we're what's this, 5 movies in with Lucasfilm at this point in the new Disney stuff. We can tell if people come out and leak stuff and it doesn't happen, then we automatically are like, you're not a good leaker, right? And so we've started to be able to weed out a lot of the bad leakers out there. And then we kind of know who's legit and who's not. And so basically it's just the fact that there are people out there talking about this with other people that are then talking about it with leakers. So yeah, that's pretty much how that works. But you say the leaks are so inconsistent and contradictory. How can that be true? I got to be honest here, man. I don't know what leaks you're talking about, but they are not that contradicting. Not to me. There are little differences here and there. Like, for instance, some people have leaked that on Exegol there's going to be a giant cube that's floating over the planet's surface. Some people have leaked that that's going to be a giant sphere. And so what that implies to me is that somebody's looking at concept art and they're seeing all these different things, and maybe the two they're settling on that maybe even go to early CG work are the cube and the stone. Let's see here. Austin Whitley says, isn't Matt Smith going to be the Dark Acolyte? There's really no evidence to suggest that. I was talking about the Matt Smith thing earlier. My take on it is very similar to Jason Ward's take. And what Jason believes is that they were originally screen testing Matt Smith to be the young Palpatine. Like, either he was legitimately going to be a young Sheev, or they were going to go the route that maybe you're talking about with the Dark Acolyte that allows Palpatine to possess him. and they probably screen tested it, and they had him slated, and then they just decided they wanted to go a different direction. My gut tells me they wanted that Ian McDiarmid from Revenge of the Sith look, because it's super nostalgic for a lot of people, and a lot of people love that look. So that's how I think it'll be. Let's see here. Isaac says, how long do you think the movie will be? It's got to be at least 2.5 hours. I would say 3 hours is my hope. But yeah, it'll probably be like 2:45 is probably where it'll land. 2:45, 2:50. I mean, JJ likes to make long movies, but he's really a company man too. So like, if they tell him to shorten it, he will shorten it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So who knows? I'm gonna guess close to 3 hours. I just think that's pretty much needed for all the different things. It's their end game, is what they're saying, right? So they need that end game time. The Emperor in 6 is better looking than in Episode 3. Yeah, maybe so, Greg. But the Emperor in 6 is still pretty freaking old. So to make it seem like he's revitalized and then make him still old, I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm really not sure. How much lens flare in this one, Josh? I would say just the right amount, hopefully. Not too freaking much. Yo, what's up, Maverick Pilgrim? Yo, Maverick, we've got such cool stuff coming to the Patreon tomorrow. I am very excited to talk to you guys on Patreon tomorrow. Let's see here. Do you believe we get Anakin? I mean, so this is... Dizzy, I got to be honest here. This is my read on it, and I'm just the dude on the internet, right? I don't know. But the way I looked at all this stuff, the read that I have on it is that they did not plan on having Anakin. They might have shot some stuff with him earlier, and they just felt like it didn't work or something like that. But I truly believe that one of the things JJ is doing in the reshoots is adding more Anakin. My gut tells me that they have at least looked a little bit online at how many people really want Anakin to be involved. And JJ's comments where he said I don't know many books where the last couple of chapters don't have the villain that's been the villain for the whole story. That's true, but I don't know many last chapters in a book that don't have the main hero either, right? So you kind of need Anakin in the film, I think. So yeah. Also, the studio looks like crap. Yeah, I'm on the road. Maverick, in the hotel. So I'm sure the internet and everything, I'm sure it's just wacky. But I really just wanted to hop on and talk some Star Wars with you. How much of the Episode 7 episode leaks were accurate? A lot. Now, the thing is, Danny, at the time, we had no idea, right? At the time we had no idea. Dude, the people leaked that people had leaked that Kylo Ren was going to kill Snoke and cut him in half 8 months before the movie came out. But it was we just thought that was so ridiculous, and this guy didn't. I mean, where's the credentials, right? There's no credentials. So when we heard that, we were like, yeah, there's no freaking way. And then 8 months later, we're like, yo, holy crap. That leaker was right. So now that dude's sort of verified, right? So when that dude leaks stuff about the Rise of Skywalker, we're going to take it a little bit more seriously. Do you know what I'm saying? There were leaks for The Force Awakens as well, a ton of leaks. It's just the fact that there's multiple things that are operating, but it's the fact that it's secondhand information, right? The fact that we couldn't verify things back in the day, but now we're getting much better at it. The fact that, potentially with the way it reads in a film and the reshoots and changes, it could discredit people that then actually are credible, but they get disproven because of changes in production. It's a whole thing. Well, okay, so you say, I heard about 40% of the leaks for Episode 8 were true. Yeah, I mean, that's true because there's so many fake leaks out there, right? I mean, there's so many people leaking information that's not real, right? So yeah, automatically. And honestly, I think it's great that there are all these fake leakers out there because for me, personally, I don't care either way. I'm going to report on it and speculate and make content and try to have fun with it. But I'd actually there to be more fake stuff so that we don't know for sure what's going on in the film, because it's kind of weird. My relationship with the Rise of Skywalker is I'm really hoping to be surprised, but I'm expecting not to be. I'm expecting to pretty much know all the main beats of the film. I think I'm still really going to enjoy it, and it's so weird, as a business person and whatever, I'm kind of more focused on how the film does, how it's received. I'm actually more interested in the story about Star Wars as a brand than the story Star Wars is telling right now. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Let's see here. Broski says opinions on the new Joker movie. I almost did my thoughts on Joker today instead of this video for Star Wars Sunday, and I'll be talking about Joker very soon. I don't know if I'll do it tomorrow or if I'll do it like Tuesday or something. But here's the quick summary of my thoughts on Joker. It is an incredible piece of art, and it has left me just thinking a lot about the film, and I think that in that sense, it's very successful. It's a very successful film that like gets you talking and gets you thinking, but I'm not as hyped on it as a lot of people are. And I think some people are going way too far in both praising the film and talking about how it's going to set a new precedence for comic book movies. I just completely disagree with that. And I'll be interested to see how the fallout is. How does Warner Brothers respond to it and everything like that? But the movie is at the same time like a masterpiece and also a really uncomfortable movie. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. It's super uncomfortable. Like I found myself cringing a lot, and Joaquin's performance is so good that it makes you really uncomfortable, which I think is the point. But that's like film school, Josh. That's like me 10 years ago in film school, where I love all that avant-garde, like let's make ourselves feel all weird kind of stuff. It's just not my bag anymore. Today is Star Wars Sunday. How come nobody tells me these things? Greg, we're telling you now, man. We're telling you now. We're letting you know. Oh yeah, the difference between Palpatine jumping into bodies. So here's my explanation with that, Shogun. They've probably been trying both. Behind the scenes, they've probably had both, right? I think that JJ probably did say, let's try some scenes and let's try this with Palpatine jumping into bodies. And then they were like, oh man, I don't know if I like that. Let's try the scenes this way. So, particularly with the way JJ makes films, and he's a revisionist of his work, and he really makes the film in the editing bay, which by the way, all films are made in the editing bay. But, he's really particular in that sense. So the leaks themselves are probably accurate, but they don't accurately depict what's going to happen in the movie necessarily. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. I'll do one more question, and then I got to get on out of here. If the music says I think they'll continue to restore it. Okay, this is an interesting one. Lewis, by the way, I'll just answer Lewis's question real quick. I love that Spider-Man is back in the MCU. That is dope. But let's talk about this question from Norin Rad. Josh, if the movie is successful, do you think they will ever continue Rey's story? Okay, so first of all, you have to define successful. Because, the movie is going to be successful. It's going to be a successful film. They're going to make more money than they spend on this movie. But the truth is, the bar for what this movie needs to hit to be like really successful is way more than just being financially successful. I think it has to track higher than The Last Jedi. I think, but critically almost doesn't matter. Norin Rad, I see you popping in, because think about this. The Last Jedi is critically loved. Like the Last Jedi was praised critically. Do you know what I mean? And it didn't matter because, frankly, that movie damaged Star Wars. Like, there's just no other way to say it. Like that movie damaged Star Wars, and so it almost doesn't matter critically how it does. It matters more how it is received with the fan base. So my opinion here is no. My answer to your question is no. I do not think Disney will ever go back to the Rey character in as far as telling that story. I think Rey will be used in Star Wars and probably used way more successfully in the future. Like the way they used her in The World Between Worlds, just with like that little line and it like ties it all together. It's very beautiful. Like Rey will continue to be a big part of Star Wars, and her being a Skywalker now and helping to defeat Palpatine, huge. Definitely going to be going down. But frankly, no. First of all, I don't think Daisy's going to want to do it. She's had to, frankly, suffer a lot with the insufferable Star Wars fan base, which you guys know I love the Star Wars fans, but they're ridiculous. And so, yeah, I don't think Rey would want to come back. I don't think Daisy's interested. And frankly, I think Disney wants to get as far away from this saga and move on as quickly as possible. Like, first of all, they need to, but also, like, I think from the business standpoint, it just makes sense, right? Like this, I just kind of think they fumbled passing the baton, and it hurt people. It hurt the base more than they were anticipating. And so moving forward, I think they're going to jump onto something completely new. I think the Feige Star Wars thing is way bigger than they're leading on. And I think that that will potentially set up the new future for Star Wars. But anyways, guys, I have to leave it there. I hope this video was watchable. I don't even know because it's hotel internet and all that. You guys are amazing, super close to 100,000 subscribers. I'm very excited. And as I said, tomorrow on Patreon, we got some good stuff coming for you guys on Patreon tomorrow. Okay, guys, as I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.